Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. As we do each meeting, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next, the roll call of members. Steve?
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale, 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
Jordan Lebemoff, the 4th District.
And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from District 1. And to my far left is Janet Doherty, the Clerk of the Board. Good evening. And our Superintendent, Dr. Wendy Robinson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, well, first item on our agenda is awards and recognitions, and we want to recognize and get a little report from a member of the Allen County Public Library Board. The Fort Wayne Community School Board of Trustees appoints 2 board members to the Allen County Library Board of Trustees. Mr. Martin Seifert and Mr. Ben Eisbart are the current appointees, and they will provide us with an update of their work on the library board. And I talked to Mr. Seifert today. He's got an important soccer match to attend, I think, that got postponed that he wasn't expecting. So, Ben Eisbart, the microphone is yours if you want to step up there to the podium.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for the opportunity to address the school board as one of your 2 appointees. I must tell you, the Public Library Board is a wonderful one to be on. We do great things with your help. I left at your seats 2 rather colorful charts. The first is the 2017 annual report. It's a very high-level overview of some statistics that we're quite proud of. We have, for example, nearly 25 million total collection uses in 2017. It's broken down in the electronic media, nearly 20 million physical items like books and things, as well as CDs of nearly 5 million, and then children's materials close to 600,000. Our operating budget is close to $28 million, and we have library-sponsored programs for 2017 of a little more than 7,000. In addition, we have 5,000 youth programs. One of the youth programs that I'd like to share with you is something called the Study Zone, which I think you're familiar with. The Study Zone is a program that takes place in 4 of our county library locations, Georgetown being within the city, the Fort Wayne Community School District, New Haven, Pontiac, and Tecumseh. These are programs that are held every Monday through Friday during the school year from 2:30 to 5 o'clock. And what they do is to provide those children that attend an opportunity to learn and study, do their homework, have tutors and staff work with them after school so that they can have a place to study the work that has been assigned and just have an opportunity to interface with their peers. There are certain rules in the study zone, and that is you have to study. Not a bad idea. As an example, at Georgetown, on any given day, you can expect to find 60 to 100 middle school children there, young adults there. Now, those that don't want to participate in study zone, but want to have a place to go in the afternoon, certainly can go, but not in this area where our computers and things are. And we've noticed, according to feedback, tremendous results in terms of learning and education progress in this area. It's a program that the library offers, again, in 4 schools during the school year. The next colorful sheet deals with what's known as our LINK program. LINK program is a cooperative program between Fort Wayne Community Schools and the library. This year, June 1st to July 31st, 2018, we have provided, with your help and Follinger grant, over 16,000 total lunches and snacks at our main library, at our Shawnee branch, at Little Turtle, Pontiac, Tecumseh, and Hessen-Castle. And as you can see on your sheet, the main library encompasses kids from Adams, Anthus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives them a place to go, not only for lunches and snacks, but also through the opportunity to have something to do during the summer, to learn certain skills, reading obviously being the most dominant one, and it prepares the kids for the school year that comes. Statistics have shown, and you know it better than I, that once the school year ends and the school year begins, there's a drop in the learning curve. But this program attempts to supplement that and to level off the curve and keep education going during the summertime. And that's a program that is jointly done between the library, the schools, and funded by, in part, by a grant from the Follinger Foundation. So those are some of the good things that we do, and we certainly enjoy doing it. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Yes, Tom?
Hey, Ben, I represent, the northeast side of Fort Wayne. I noticed that Georgetown isn't part of the LINK program. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, we can only go so far, and we can only, funding only allows so much, and the cluster was such that we weren't able to go out that far. And it's also not necessarily a walk-in facility. The Georgetown Library is in a shopping center, but that's something I will ask Greta to look into.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to ask about an overdue library book.
You're notorious for that, Ben.
Well, thank you so much.
I did have one additional question. During your tenure on the library board, have you seen any significant trends? I was looking at the one icon here, or factoid here, with respect to collection use, and the fact that of that 24,800,000 plus figure, 19,500,000 plus are electronic materials. Is that a number that keeps increasing?
Yes, it does. And you can imagine, because of computer savviness and just the opportunity to access the library from home. You can access it from home, the collection, and then actually network throughout the nation. That number keeps going up. But our physical material still keeps getting checked out. Yeah, people still read books like we used to read them. Well, thank you again for the opportunity of serving, and we'll be back next year if you'll allow us.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Okay, next we have our consent agenda, and those consist of items that come to us on a regular basis at every meeting. They include the approval of the minutes from the last meeting held September 24th, which board members have had to review. Vouchers and payroll. Vouchers for the period ending October 8th, payroll for the period ending September 14th, which members have also had to seen to review, and the personnel report, which we have also seen. So,
I'd move approval of the 3 items listed under the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Second.
thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ann. Okay, no questions? So all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Dr. Robinson, was there anything on the personnel report that you wanted to highlight?
Nothing official, but I just smiled because one of the young people we've just hired was one of my original advisory students. And I used to constantly remind him he had to come back to work for us, and he has done that.
Oh, really?
I
As
won't
a
mention-
teacher?
Yes, I won't mention.
Very
his name.
good.
That's embarrassing, but I smile every time I see it.
Great.
I have a quick question regarding the personnel report. How are we doing with filling the vacancies? Because I was absent for a couple of weeks, so just wondered if there was, if we're making headway there.
We are, if you look at the number of teachers we're hiring, I'll give you exact numbers. Kathy's not here, Kathy Carr, and Charles is not here this evening, so I don't have numbers, but I can get those to you. But as you can see, we're chipping away at it. We have a young man in HR, his name is Cody, and we've developed relationships with universities, so we're trying to get them as soon as they graduate. But I can give you exact numbers. I don't want to guess.
Okay, we have no old business, so next is new business, and that includes the public hearing on the 2019 budgets, capital projects plan, and the school bus replacement plan. So a public budget presentation was made at the previous meeting on September 24th. All board adopted funds and proposed budgets were discussed, and estimated tax rates were reviewed. The notice for the capital projects plan and the bus replacement plan were properly advertised on September 26th in the Journal-Gazette. The notice directs taxpayers to the district website for details of the plans. The budget was submitted to the Indiana Gateway on September 24, 2018 for public information. According to Indiana law, the school corporation must conduct a public hearing on the budgets, the 3-year capital projects plan, and 5 years of the bus replacement plan. A hearing is scheduled for this evening's meeting of the Board of School Trustees. The intent of the hearing is to allow board members the opportunity to receive community input. The board will be asked to vote on these items at our next meeting on October 22nd. So I hereby open the public meeting, and this is the time for members of the public to address the board regarding the 2019 budgets, the 2019-21 capital projects plan, and the 2019 to 2023 school bus replacement plan. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Going? Okay, gone. Do we have a motion to close that public hearing?
So moved.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Tom. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we have the purchase of the renewal of the, how's that pronounced? Sophos, okay. The Sophos antivirus software for micro integration of South Bend, Indiana for $149,460. Sophos is installed on every Fort Wayne Community School staff and student Windows computer, providing protection from computer viruses and malware. This purchase is for a 4-year renewal that will be paid in annual installments of $37,365. The first year, 2018, will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and the final 3 years from the new Operations Fund from 2019 to 2021. Quotes were received from 3 vendors that are authorized by Sophos to sell their software, and you can see those below. And Micro Integration out of South Bend, Indiana, was the lowest bidder. Questions will be addressed by Director of Technology, Jack Bird. Do we have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve. So, any questions?
Jack, why Sophos? Why this particular software versus all the others that you see on TV?
We've done evaluations, and one of the things that Sophos offers is central control that we can manage the clients. The actual Sophos clients, it has an excellent interface, and the software has a smaller footprint as far as processing requirements. It's just been a very good, so we've used it for approximately 10, maybe it's been 15 years now. It's just been a very good product for us.
And how do you upgrade? Because I'm sure they come out with upgrades from time to time.
Correct.
We've got so many laptops and so many computers. How do you go about upgrading each of the units?
They have a centralized place that they get the updates from.
Okay.
So when you log on to the computer, Sophos will go out and check to see if there's any updates and then update its list. That's done automatically at sign-on.
Okay.
And roughly how many devices do we have to install that?
Right
Antivirus.
now, we're approaching 30,000 devices.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jack. And thanks for getting my laptop working.
You're welcome.
I used it again today. So all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and last we have the Learning Forward contract. It's recommended that the board approve the Learning Forward contract totaling $380,900 for the 18-19 school year to support the continuation of professional learning. Our partnership with Learning Forward continues to thrive. Learning Forward will continue to collaborate with district-level administrators, academic services, interventionists, and coaches in comprehensive professional learning. The cost for district-level administrators, academic services, and interventionists is $294,500. For the coaches is $86,400 for the grand total of $380,900. District-level administrators, academic services, interventionists contract, and the coaches contract will be paid from the peer grant. Questions will be answered by Ramona Coleman, Professional Learning Director. So do we have a motion and a second?
I move for approval.
Thanks, Glenna. Thanks, Tom. So, questions? Ramona, I think we might have a couple questions.
Yes.
Just as Ramona's coming up, I did provide the board that expanded spreadsheet as a part of the evaluation notebook. So you've got a double-sided that has all of them listed. One side was professional learning from Learning Forward, the other one was just our administrative. So you can go back and kind of look at that, it was in that packet.
In the pack, right.
Could you summarize the work we accomplished this past school year, the folks that were, that our folks met with Learning Forward and what you believe the major accomplishments were?
Yes, sure, thank you. Learning Forward this past school year and then continuing this school year is basically when we look at them as an organization, they really are the experts in the area of professional learning. And so we've used them with different learning communities throughout this past year, especially with our coaches, with cabinet, with academic support, really looking at our academic side of the pyramid and looking at the teaching and learning cycle and ensuring that our teachers understand how to facilitate learning for students through the teaching and learning cycle, and then just really making sure when we even look at our focus on the change theory and the area of theory of change, that our teachers, our adults, our administrators really understand how to implement and engage QIT members and others throughout the district in that theory of change.
In the evaluations completed by teachers, do you recall some of the remarks that they had after attending the sessions?
So for the most part with teachers, and I want to say that when you ask that question, I think about it's the survey that Rafi completed with teachers in the climate survey. And so basically teachers really felt that with the Learning Forward work that they had completed in the district, that they really understood, especially the school improvement planning more this year than they had in previous years. Especially how to apply the theory of change, especially how to apply the 7-step process that we're using as a district, and really taking teachers through and understanding that cycle of continuous improvement. So I just really think it was just a deeper layer of learning, really peeling back what they needed to understand.
So where do you go with Learning Forward moving forward?
So I think now, really what we're looking at with Learning Forward is how do we build that expertise within the district moving forward? So how do we sustain the work in our district that Learning Forward is doing with administrators and with teachers? And so with that, even when we look at our coaching community, we built in lead coaches to be able to continue that work once Learning Forward is not in the district. Also looking at our interventionists and building the same model so that once Learning Forward is not in the district, how do we build capacity to make sure that we have stakeholders within our district that can carry on the work for us?
So in many ways, the work that we have with them will be a turnkey project in which we will really be able to sustain this type of, these practices and training in the future beyond the expiration of the contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because the main thing here,
I was going to say that we really kind of talked through this. They've got about another year and a half of shelf.
Yeah.
So we almost have an expiration date in this peer grant. And as Ramona's talking about these learning communities, one of the things we're building, like with the interventionists, people in the district who take over. The other thing I just wanted Ramona to talk just a little bit about is we have been sending people to Learning Forward, and there's some, like the academy.
Right.
And so part of what Ramona very specifically is doing, in particular with Kay and Fred, we're writing our own modules. So that at the end of this, like the year and a half, we have the modules for us to do some of that training. So if you can
And I think I
kind of
had a
expand.
chance to witness some of that interaction with other districts around the country that also use Learning Forward, that it was really a great opportunity for them to figure out, what are you doing on this same problem that, that we're facing here in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
and I think when Steve speak about problem in the work with the Learning Forward Academy, it really works around a problem of practice, really examining within your district and looking at your data and saying what is it that you've identified as a key group of stakeholders that you need to look at and approach differently. I think the next step, even when we think about the Learning Forward Academy, is that we use Learning Forward a lot as far as their name. But I think basically what we've tried to really emphasize with teachers and administrators is that Learning Forward is really about best practices. So the research that we're really looking at is the research that we're actually having consultants to really take the time to dig deep in that research for us, and then to help us to examine that research and then use it to facilitate best practices within our district. The academy with the modules that Dr. Robinson spoke of is that basically there is a 2.5-year commitment when you agree to go to Learning Forward and experience the academy. And so what in turn we want to turnkey is that in having someone to leave our district is actually to embed that experience within FWCS and have key administrators that will be able to facilitate the modules within our district.
And then I would just ask, are you satisfied that all the deeper learning experiences and training that our professionals have had are resulting in the use of these best practices? And are we seeing improvements at where the rubber meets the road with the student learning?
So definitely I would see that we're seeing improvement. So even logically, if I could speak, that when we look at our logic model and we look at those long-term outcomes that we're wanting administrators and teachers to be able to accomplish, we're able to look back, whether it's the school improvement plan or the district department plans, we're really able to look back at those and look at the processes and strategies that we've used to work with teachers and administrators to evaluate whether or not we're making a difference, not only with the adult learners within the district, but also how the adult learning within the district, how those shifts move toward student impact within the district.
Are you seeing a correlation?
Well, let me answer that, because I don't think Learning Forward was set up to see that direct correlation. But what Learning Forward is helping us develop is as we do the curriculum changes, you have to be able to measure the curriculum changes. So some of the best practices about how you measure the effect of professional learning, how you monitor a teacher's, one of the things we're working on as a part of our protocol is a walkthrough where the people in the curriculum office and the people who evaluate principals can speak to a little bit of some of the projects they're doing. What's the best practice and of almost a before and after. So I think that the main measure of achievement has been I-STEP, since we were not consistent with our curriculum across the district. One of the reasons why we're starting what we're doing. But the thing that we have to absolutely commit to is almost this before and after. Because this is really the first time in about 15 years or more that we've had a consistent curriculum. But that's only with language arts and math. So we're even going to have a disconnect because the state's changing I-STEP again. And so that's going to be on us as we're developing this curriculum. What's going to be the measure of whether there's an impact on student learning? What we're doing with Learning Forward is an impact on adult learning. And do we see changes in adult practices? And so those are a little bit different than whether I'm going to see a change in I-STEP. But the intent is if you improve adult behavior, and if adults focus on what we're trying to get them to do with curriculum, obviously you're going to see changes in student scores. So that wasn't the intent of Learning Forward.
No,
It
I'm
was the
just
adult.
asking because you have internal methods of monitoring change and progress, because that's what we want to be used
Right.
in measuring success on an individual basis. So I'm just asking, are you seeing a correlation? Are you happy with the results? And I'm not saying anything about I-STEP because we've already discounted I-STEP as fairly ineffective as a tool for helping teachers to improve the learning for their students.
Okay, so if we're talking about, go back to something Ramona said, our change process is a tool to ensure that teachers and administrators are planning together. And they look at their data, they look at their environment, we do a climate survey, and then they're to write goals and have a focus for what their school needs to do to improve. So when you look at what we've done in the past in terms of seeing improvement based upon the goals they have, that's a part of even how we develop and determine teacher pay. But if you look at why we're actually getting ourselves involved right now in the curriculum writing, we have not seen consistency or improvement in the skills that whether the I-STEP is wrong or not, the standards are the standards. The test is going to change all the time. So if you get I-STEP back, they do speak to specific skills and you can see trends. And so I don't want to say that we discount I-STEP. We don't think it determines our value as a district. But embedded in the material you get back, it either tells you that what we're doing, kids are progressing or not. So I think we just got to be careful when we're talking about Learning Forward, because the kids' achievement changes based upon what we're doing and what we have structured in the district. Now, we have the climate surveys. We have the RTI, which evaluated an external partner, so we need to bring that back up and talk about that again. And that had teachers interviewed as a part of that. But if people have not had a direct treatment from the Learning Forward work, and right now we don't say this Learning Forward work when we're doing SIP. It's SIP work. But I think the RTI process was an external evaluator who came in and questioned without us. So we'll bring that back out again and talk about it. But I just don't want to think that when you ask that question, from the beginning we should set up what it is we're trying to get done with it, and ours was adult behavior. And so what we have to try to measure is the adult behavior. We have the RTI report that talked a little bit about how people feel about PL. But if you're asking me for direct correlation to student achievement, that's when we change the standards, that's when we change what we're doing in the classroom. That we have to measure, which is based upon instruction.
Hey, Ramona, we've talked about doing our own micro-credential
Credentialing?
programs, you know, where staff can take online courses to improve their skills in whatever area that might be. Does Learning Forward help us with that at all, or?
So with micro-credentialing, that's basically, again, that's how, as a district, you decide that you want those micro-credentials to be assessed. So basically, if you think of that basic level or that introductory level, it could just be attending a class. So if we wanted someone to have budgeting 101, and we wanted them to really receive a micro-credential in budgeting, we could set that up as a district. But then if you look at really pathways of how do we move from teacher and move from teacher to building coach or a district coach, you can also look at micro-credentialing in an advanced way as far as what paths would we create for teachers and other leaders to make sure that they earn badges or micro-credentials.
Right. But
in an
Learning
advanced
Forward's
way.
not helping us
But
with
Learning
that
Forward would
program,
not
really. That's-
help us with
Okay,
that.
okay.
Well, and I think that part, because we start teacher negotiations, there's a defined period when you do that. That's all in the peer grant, and that's all negotiated. So what we set up doing with teachers
Okay.
around that is a part of the negotiations process, but they won't be involved in that. Now, the micro-credentialing, even the structure of the human capital management, they kind of helped us with that, but not even the content, because that's been developed by people internally.
And this amount of money, is that about the same that we've paid in previous years?
Yes. Because it's
Refresh
based
my
upon
memory.
the same communities that we've represented in the past.
Okay.
And what we did is, as we brought one on, we dropped some off. So we kind of keep it the same.
And the professional learning that happens, is that by building, by subject, by grade level, or how is that professional learning happening?
So from Learning Forward. So the professional learning is basically at the district level. And so for our interventionists is where we're bringing them out of the building during the day. And so that's an ongoing professional learning community that meets monthly. For our coaches, Learning Forward actually meets with the lead coaches first. And so our lead coaches, in building that capacity, actually design the learning that's going to take place with our instructional coaches. And then we meet with our instructional coaches once a month also.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Ramona.
You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that brings us to the end of our official meeting. That just leaves board member comments. Steve?
You may come back to me, I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, no problem. Glenna?
Well, last week we attended the meet and greet with Dr. Robinson and the parents. And I have a lot of people that in my district who are concerned enough to raise some issues regarding some of the changes in curriculum thus far. I felt like Dr. Robinson answered a lot of questions from a lot of different parents who were there. So I felt like the meeting itself was well-attended, and the topics that came up were legitimate concerns. I felt at the end of that Dr. Robinson had really done a wonderful job of addressing a whole range of issues, but I still left a little bit concerned, and I think one of the main concerns that I have is hearing so many of the parents whose students were honor students who are now failing because we've switched curriculum. And to me, that either shows, A, that we had a lot of grade inflation going on previously, or the new curriculum is so divergent or different from the curriculum that we're using now, that there's a gap between what they are, the foundation they have, and being prepared for this new version of the curriculum. And so I just want the parents out there who are concerned that, this is going to affect their child. I thought it was very gracious of Dr. Robinson to be willing to address those concerns of individual students who are struggling, but I don't think it should be limited to just those students whose parents happen to be at that parent meeting, because I think it should be applied district-wide, since this is a brand-new curriculum in the name of fairness. So I know there's a lot of bugs to be worked out, and the district is working on those, and parents are being asked to be patient. But I still think that the assistance that was being given to the students who are struggling should also be given to the parents and the students who were not able to attend for various reasons. Thank you.
No comments
Done?
this evening.
No comments.
Maria?
No comments.
Nothing.
Jordan?
I-
Dr. Ram?
Steve?
Steve?
Could you go back to, I did want to share something. I was at the National School Board Association's Council for Urban Boards of Education, and one of the speakers at the conference was Dr. Bryant Marks, who is well-known for delivering diversity training around the country, and mentioned that he provides training regarding what he calls implicit bias for every police officer in Los Angeles and New York City. And I got to tell you, he was probably the most spectacular speaker I've ever heard. Bias is always a very sensitive topic when you raise it and address it. And what Dr. Marks indicated through a series of examples is that we all have biases. But it's how you really become more aware of them, and how you become more open and receptive to how other people act in this world. And that's particularly important for police officers who face some very difficult situations, but may not be very aware culturally of how other people react in certain situations. But he was with us. His training goes for many hours. He was with us for an hour and a half. But I've urged NSBA to bring him back, and if Glenna is with me in January, we'll get a chance, hopefully, to hear him speak to a greater length. But he was outstanding. The one example he used, and I don't know what the word is to describe it, but he talked about, he asked the audience, which was largely black school board members, to come up with a word or phrase as they might describe a young 16-year-old black male. And the brand that the audience created wasn't very positive. And it was, words like lazily and dangerous and shiftless, and it created one of those word images. I don't know what they call them. But it was really powerful. And he said, now, you and I can walk out of this meeting and we're not carrying that brand with us. But can you imagine if you are a 16-year-old black male in this country, and this is the way the world looks at you? That was really powerful. It was really powerful. But he then, led us through a discussion as to how to really deal with what we all carry, and that's that implicit bias, which is perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. But, and he talked about ways to really address that. So I hope we get to hear him again in January.
That could be, whatever training he provides could certainly be good for a diverse district like ours too, for staff and teachers, bus drivers.
We have embedded
Also-
that in the positive behavior supports, because one of the things that we've done over the years is to try to have diversity parents, and the old racism word comes up, and people get very nervous when you talk about biases. So one of the things that we're trying to do with the positive behavior supports in the brain research is to give people a research-based reason why this is valuable to have that conversation. But we're going to have a work session on the positive behavior supports. If you remember, we brought the people from the University of Chicago here, and we had some work about a year and a half ago. That's a lot of their research is based upon that.
And I've been through diversity training before, and I guess what I don't appreciate are those trainers that make you feel guilty
Right.
about your feelings.
Right.
This was not the case.
They're normal feelings.
This was not the case.
And that's what we're trying to make sure, that we connect how you handle whatever feelings you have. We're not going to change those, but how does that impact your job? The thing that most people in schools, teachers want to have are strategies. Because I found that people want to do the right thing. They don't want you to label it. They don't want you to act as if they're doing something wrong. But I think when we have Faye do the positive behavior supports, the University of Chicago work, it's embedded, what you're talking about, it's embedded in a lot of work around emotional intelligence for kids.
I had to share that with you
Yeah.
folks.
Anything else that you wanted to share, Dr. Robinson, that you were thinking of before?
A couple of things. This Saturday, the Faith Center had a FAFSA parent and student workshop where they helped parents and their children fill out those horrendous federal forms. We had more bees than we had people. It rained on us. It was phenomenal. Purdue, Fort Wayne was a partner in it. It was just fascinating to see. We had seniors from the different high schools who were ambassadors, and it was from 10 to 2. Yet was there, Faye was there. It was one of those highlights. You know, there were no cameras to see the wonderful work, but we had food trucks on the parking lot. It was just a great time. The other thing I want to just talk I talked a little bit about the positive behavior supports. I want to talk a little bit about the communication, and Glenna has an excellent point about as people struggle, it shouldn't be just the people who can show up at a meeting. One of the reasons we're working with the PTA is to get out some of the camera-ready, constant communication, because there's some people who their work hours doesn't matter when we have a meeting, they can come. But the other thing we're going to talk a little bit with the board about, we've gotten another grant. This is the Gear Up grant. And part of what that grant needs to be used for is to help those students, specifically in schools, with figuring out pathways and what happens when you struggle and how do you get support and how do parents help their kids. So this is an ongoing issue. I want to just say this to you, though. As we work with our schools, and Get can attest to this, one of the things that the principals wanted, we've done several PowerPoints and talking points. Every school has a slightly different take and a slightly different issue with this curriculum. And so the principals want to be the ones responsible for explaining. And so I don't intend to have a whole lot of meetings in public. I intend for there to be opportunities. But I am very pleased with the attitude the principals have. They see it as a school-based issue. They've got the district talking points. So Glenna, any parent who is having trouble, send them directly to their principal, and the principal needs to have the teacher. We gave guidelines about grading as we're in this transition. And part of what we understand is we didn't really have a lot of compliance around our last grading system. We intend to third quarter start that conversation again. But there is no excuse for a parent to feel they can't go directly to the principal to talk directly about their kids. So I hope you get that message out, that in this transition, it may be a district transition, but to a parent is your child. And so as superintendent, I don't want to answer all those questions because I'm not in those buildings, but we provided that support, and we provided that structure. One of the things I just want to add, too, is we've had about 237 individual visits to schools by the curriculum department, in that when teachers or principals reach out for help with this, we're targeting those schools that don't have coaches. So a lot of that behind-the-scenes work, people don't complain about when you're doing something to help. So we want to make sure that people understand you have a resource. You go to the principal and the teacher, and you get to us in central office when people turn you away. But we're not picking and choosing which kids we help. We just have to have parents clearly explain to us what the issue is.
Yeah, and I, along with several others, attended last week's Wednesday night parent meeting at FACE. I actually do think that we need to have, additional meetings. And maybe it would be, like you said, at each school, led by the principal. But I think that venue, particularly to get parents together with people who are administrating or delivering the curriculum is really valuable. Because a lot of times you have 10 parents there that have the same question. Boom, answered. One thing that did come up Wednesday night, and I've been talking about this for about 2 years, and with this new curriculum, it seems like it would be a perfect opportunity to do it, and that is to have some sort of parent academy so that we can, and maybe the peer grant can pay staff to do it, but to help parents understand what's going on, what's different with their child in the classroom, how they can help, get a look at Dreambox and Agile Mind so that if their student comes home and is doing that at home, they've already had some experience with that.
And those are really, even when you look at the Gear Up grant, those are the things that we need to use those grants for. The other is the access to technology. But then the other thing we are doing with the peer grant is we're trying to organize, for example, 5th grade teachers together, 2nd grade teachers together. Because one of the things that has to happen, if teachers aren't comfortable with it, parents won't be comfortable. And so one of the conversations either is how do you get those conversations to kids? How do kids know? Well, this summer, we're going to have to work together. But just know that we are not going to leave any stone unturned because it's too important. And so absolutely, those ideas, one of the things that Title I schools are required almost on a monthly basis to have parent meetings. And so what we're trying to do is to give the parent.
Well, but there's a difference between what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about some sort of parent academy where parents are being active learners.
Same thing.
Okay.
That's what they're required to do as a part of that. But we only have 20 Title I schools, so the other 30 also have to have those meetings. So, we're trying to work with the coaches, trying to work with the curriculum department. So I think that I'll just stop talking. There are lots of pieces to this. And every time we have a meeting, we define something else that we need to work on. But the commitment is to work on it.
And my last comment, I was under the impression that iLearn was totally an online test, but evidently not, because I found out I can earn $11.50 an hour to grade open-ended items on the 2019 iLearn, and since I'm a retiree on a fixed budget, I may just do that. But that does address a criticism in the past of some of the grading by iStep, so I am happy to know that there are open-ended items on iLearn that will be graded by Indiana teachers.
We hope.
Well,
You have to be a teacher to grade it?
what's that?
Do you have to be a teacher to grade it?
I don't know, but I'm going to do a little research and find out how I can apply, because my teaching license is still valid.
Grading.
Well, we want to know what's going to be in the 2019 iLearn.
Well, it says here the scoring window runs from May 13th to June 6th, so that's like 3 weeks. So you'd be a grader for 3 weeks. It says 3 nights a week. I'm up for it.
Go for it, Julie.
I am. I'm going to look into it. I'm serious. I'd like to see what, it looks like.
All right.
So, any other comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Maria. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and so now the microphone is